It is the largest trade bloc in the world with many countries. Be anxious when you have no deliberate plans. And so, thank you very much, fellow Africans, and welcome to our today's episode of the Change for African campaign. And this afternoon, presenting to you our 42nd episode of the Change for African campaign. I'm so glad that being on Tuesday, we dive into our second pillar of the Change for African campaign, which is about the potential that we hold as an African continent, or the potential that we possess as an African continent. And so therefore, fellow Africans, allow me to articulate our today's pillar or today's episode this way. More so, I'm trying to relate our potential as an African continent in terms of unity, that a united continent will possess a more higher potential than a continent that is divided. And so, speaking about unity as an African continent, I'm bringing this in the context of what I discussed last week. Allow me to at least go back there about the African Continental Free Trade Area, speaking about trade in the intra-African trade, which stands at about 15 to 20%. Compared to other world powers of about like in Asia at about 60, in Europe at about 70%, but Africa, the intra-African trade is only at about 15 to 20%. So why is our trade, the intra-African trade or trade among ourselves, still at a very low rate as an African continent? The very thing, it is because of what we call the unity of one African continent. Because looking at unity, Africa will still have not that unity. Africa is still not a united force whereby they do things, or it comes to the bargaining power to the other global spheres. They do not go as a bloc. Rather, many African countries go individually, and that is one of the things that is still ailing Africa. Because in terms of trade, Africa has the most countries, or it is the largest trade bloc in the world with many countries. So it means if this trade bloc is able to come together, be united, and then when it comes to the bargaining power in terms of trade with the other partners across the globe, it will be easy. But then going as an individual, it is costly, number one, and then you're not so convincing. But when you go as a bloc, the convincing power, the bargaining power rises. And so that is with respect to the current systems in Africa. And if that is not possible for now, the big question remains: which kind of generation are we raising? Are we raising a generation of leaders who have in mind that unity, unity gives us a destiny? When we are united, our destiny is about being triumphant at the end of the day. If the current system is not realizing that we need to be united as an African continent, that, as we know, we are an African Union. Also, when it comes to the inter-African trade, let us be united, so that as we face the globe and ask for maybe 1 or 2 or 3, we facing the globe as a block, we are facing the other people as a block, and we are discussing, we are speaking in one voice, so that we are able to, it is easy, unity. It is when you're united, it is easy to speak to the other partners in terms of trade, and all the investments will come to our continent. So if the current system is not possible, then the generation that we are raising of the African youth, then it should be clear in their mind that where we are going, for us to make steps, because they are very anxious about changing Africa, they are very anxious about a greater Africa. Then you cannot be anxious when you have no deliberate plans. We need the deliberate plans. What are the deliberate plans? The deliberate plans are to make sure that as we grow, we continue to build that bond between us, such that as countries of Africa, we rise in a bond that is very strong. We rise knowing that unity will guarantee us the destiny of winning, because winning is what was meant for us. But then people have come in place and have tried to make sure that we are not united, rather we are divided, so as to continue extracting minerals from us. Because actually, a divided Africa, it is to their prerogative. A divided Africa, it is to their prerogative, and it is to our disadvantage. Because when we are divided, it means that when individual countries go, meaning they only speak as one, and then they discuss things to do with the minerals in the African countries. Africa has been meant to be a cow that is only milked, but then it's not given food or it's not given water. That is the state of Africa. And so we need to break that monopoly and have a mutual, beneficial trade. Let's have what you call the symbiosis, the symbiotic type of trade, whereby there's mutual beneficiary among us. But Africa is a disadvantaged continent in terms of we remain to be milked, but then would not receive what is meant for us. So that one will only come once we are united continent. Thank you very much. I do not want to go past that. Rather, as we meet tomorrow about resources, we shall continue to see how Africa can do best with its resources, in making sure that Africa, as we grow into the future, it becomes a greater continent, raising the youth of integrity, youth who understand the importance of resources, what they mean to us, and what they can do to an African continent. Thank you. God bless you. Have an interesting afternoon.